want to quash an argument that is made in the tabletop role-playing game hobby often, especially when it comes to a game like Dungeons and Dragons. What is that argument? Well, hey, if this person had the skill in real life, they wouldn't fail. They would just do the thing. They would do the task. You wouldn't have to roll dice. So why can't I just automatically do that with my character in the game? Well, in reality, in the real world, the master of masters of a skill can walk in tomorrow to the most casual, situation where there's no pressure that would cause, no outside pressure that would cause them to fail at the skill they have mastered, and they still make a mistake. Maybe they haven't made a mistake in 20 years, but today they're going to make a mistake. That's the real world. It doesn't matter how good you are at something, you can still screw it up. And in my opinion, the dice represent, that chance of screwing it up. The higher the number, the less of a chance you will screw that up. In my opinion, if there is a skill to be mastered by a character in the game, make sure the chance of failure is so low that the chance of rolling it is not going to happen. A lot of games don't really focus on that idea of mastering a skill. You should make it that the chance of the dice roll failing is almost nil. Like, hey, if you roll from 2 to 100, you won't fail. But if you roll a 1, you fail. Well, if you've mastered the skill, that is how it really should be in the game. The chance of you rolling the 1 is very low. 99% of the time you're going to perform the skill like somebody would in the real world. But there's always a chance of failure. And even though I'll be okay with avoiding some dice rolls and not applying that, I wouldn't ever falsely try to justify ignoring the dice roll based on some delusion, on some lie about the real world, where the guy who knows the skill really well never messes up. Well, they do. That's reality. We all know it. So why even make that argument? Now, what about situations like you're in combat and you keep rolling low and you keep missing a target? And the target isn't even facing you. Like they're surrounded by you and other characters. And you're wondering why you're just not hitting, right? Well, first off, let's acknowledge that the target is moving. And that you can mess up no matter how good you are. And if you're messing up, well, why blame the game? Why get mad at the game? Here's what you should be doing as a player. If you're frustrated by missing, well, shouldn't the character be frustrated by missing? And shouldn't you just role play that frustration into the character? And isn't that a part of what role play is? That you're reacting to the random outcome in some parts of the game. Like, hey, you went to swing your knife at a target that should be easy to hit, but the target moved, so you didn't hit it. Have you ever tried to chase an animal around where you think you should be able to grab the animal, but the animal's just gone, like you grab, it moves? And no matter how easy it should be, it's not. That dog is running all over the place. You can't grab it. Well, that's sort of what's happening to you, right? Like you'd rather the dog not run around and grab it, just like you'd rather the target not be moving in the game. But instead of complaining about it, why not role play? Right when the dice flop on you, why not role play, the reaction of frustration? And if it makes sense to add that frustration to the character, it's not just you as a player, but you see it as, hey, the character would be frustrated if that door is not opening, or they can't, hit the target in front of them. Role play it in. Part of role play is reacting to these things, reacting to dice rolls, reacting to failure, not just success. Yeah, you can feel like a system like D20 is failing you when it's not living up to what you think it should live up to. But in reality, when we examine these things, the D20 system isn't really blowing up in the way that you think it is. Actually, more likely, it's showing you some reality. You missing the target as it's moving makes sense, right? You not being perfect at every skill that your character has makes sense. And we screw up on things even in minute situations in real life, right? That, like, no matter how good we are at something, we can make mistakes even without pressure on us. It just happens because we are only human, as they would say, right? We're not perfect machines, and neither are our characters. And the dice rolls represent the fact that we aren't perfect, and failure can haunt us. Here's what many will not warn you about tabletop role-playing games. Failure is as much a part of the game as success. And you're there to role play, anything, and that includes failure and success. And you need to bring energy to what you're doing even when you fail. So as a tabletop role-playing game player, in reality, you should learn to get over failure very quickly and focus back on what you're doing. And if you really look at it in a separate way, it's not really you failing the player, it's the character failing in the game. And you want them to achieve success. You know, when you go to role play as a character, you want to step into who they are and feel that world and see it through their eyes and be them, I guess, in a way, for a moment. But at the same time, when you step away from that role play, you are to acknowledge the character as someone separate from you. Are they doing good? Are they failing? You know, that's part of their life story. And your job is there to be fair to them and role play the character as you think they would react to the world as they, encounter success and failure. You know, that's why they say you're not really looking to win at a tabletop role-playing game. Look, you're looking to have success, there's no doubt. You want to achieve things with the character. There is a focus on there, and it feels good. But it's not your aim, because you are to take failure in a way that other players in other games aren't meant to. You know, if you're playing an MMO video game, no one's telling you to, role play it out when you fail. You know, that's not an expectation, but that's unique when you come to a tabletop role-playing game as a player. You know, your job is not to cry over failure. Your job is to look at it, react to it in a logical way, and bring that. So if you have a sour feeling, the quicker you can put that behind you as a player, the better it is. There are some players in the hobby that just did not realize this lesson about failure. So when they encounter failure, they start seeing it as the game failing. They start blaming everything else but themselves in the way they view it. They really come at this in the wrong way. They don't understand that failure is just a part of the game. It's part of the story. It's not the game blowing up or breaking on you. Though games can be broken and blow up on you in many different ways, this is just not one of them. When you hear a lot of complaints about people saying, hey, I missed, that means the game is broken. No, it's not. Well, isn't it ridiculous that I missed this many times? No, because that can happen in real life. And that's the difference between a tabletop role-playing game and an MMO. It's not just a normal game. You're role-playing the life of a character, right? Like, it's not the same as playing a video game. And you have to really take that in, right? You're meant to role-play the character through failure or success. And failure is not something that is a broken part of the game. Actually, without failure, the game is broken, right? If you try to eliminate failure and you let everything go, you let every skill just be performed, you do all that, well then the game is broken then. And trust me, your experience will suck compared to other people's. It's good to face failure from minute to extreme and to know you can get back up and overcome it. You know the Stallone speech in the Rocky movie where he says it's not how many punches you could take, it's you get up and keep moving forward. Get up and keep moving. Yeah, well, that's true in all areas of life, including a tabletop role-playing game. You got to take the punches, and then you got to get up and be able to move forward. And if you can't, you're probably not going to last that long in the hobby, or whatever experience you have is going to be something other people really don't want to have, right? Once you have the experience of falling on your face and overcoming that and building up a character and really, falling in love with that character, having that relationship and going forward, you realize it's good. It's good for the character that they failed before they got to where they got, right? That they tripped up a bit. And it's good because you understand failure is still going to be there even when you get them somewhere in life, even as you build them up, in levels. You won't be so shy or frown away from failure. And that's part of taking risk. But, here's when you know you're doing good in this hobby. It's when you can fail, care, but it doesn't hurt you. It doesn't make, the experience less, right? It doesn't make you want to walk away from the hobby. Though, if you fail and you don't care, well, then you're just avoiding a part of the game that you should want to experience, right? You should want to become numb to unnecessary, pain or hurt feelings over failing in a game, in a tabletop role-playing game. You should become used to the fact that the failure is not something you're worried about. You're simply paying attention to it so you can understand how to role play your character going forward past the failure. So, now you understand. As a tabletop role-playing game player, Your job is not to bitch about failure. Your job is to accept failure and then role play based on what has happened. When you encounter that failure, how is your character going to react to failing in that way? Well, role play it in, make it an effective part of the game, to the point you take the failure and you turn it into something positive. Because when you're focusing on just role-playing failure and how interesting that can be to your character's experience, and you really get into that whole interesting thing and you appreciate what that can bring to your character's story, what they're going through, and how you're building them up, when you can appreciate failure that way, man, these games are beautiful. They're a beautiful thing to find out failure is not the thing that has to be the thing that bothers you. What you're looking to do as a player is not worry about how the dice are rolling out so much. It's, are you failing just to play the game properly? Right? That's all you're really worried about. If the dice, have your character falling on their face, that's not failure. It's not really failure of the game or failure of you or your character. It is failure, but it's not like you caused it. It's just part of life. It's part of what happens. You go running, you don't mean to trip over the rock, but you do. There's no bad intent from anyone. The world doesn't care. Nobody feels nothing. It just happens. It's like nature, right? You fall down and break your leg in the middle of the woods, no one feels bad for you, but no one hates you either. No one's for or against you in that moment, right? Same thing with failure in these games. It's not about screwing you over. It's not to be a negative thing. It just, here, it's happened. And nobody feels a certain way about it. Your job is just to react to it. Anyway, for now, take care. You know what you can do? You can hit the like button. You can share the video. Oh, and there's another button you can press. That one that lets you subscribe to my channel for more content. Oh yeah, there's that bell thing. You can press that so you know when I've uploaded a new video right away.